ballots out. Not everyone is waiting for early states before casting their vote at this point. The Biden campaign focused on Buttigieg also in recent days, dismissing his experience as a small-town mayor. The results suggest that maybe that wasn't the right tact. I mean, everyone kind of laughed at the ad when it came out, but we don't know. The Trump campaign email expresses some pretty big glee about Biden's support, showing a crazy socialist and a former small-town mayor just crushed the former VP. Sanders performed particularly well against NH Hispanic voters, capturing 40% of their support. Polls show him doing well with Latinos elsewhere too, which is going to be huge in Nevada and California, the next state to come, and the state after the the first and third states down the road from New Hampshire is pretty much what I'm trying to say. That's going to be the big factor here, is because he's got the Latinos, and I think Latinos actually vote more now than African American voters do. So that's a big boost for Sanders. Here's how many delegates Sanders and Buttigieg and Klobuchar have earned so far, not estimated, but so far. According to the CNN decision desk, 8 for Sanders, 7 for Buttigieg, and 6 for Amy Klobuchar. That's going to be the count as of right now, with around 76% in, and what I hope is we can just get a call soon. Just like, Jesus, just give it to Bernie already. I don't know. We gotta get the results here. Of course, the right results. But I think that one of the biggest stories of this, and one of the constant stories, I think, really all throughout life, is how hated Meghan McCain, daughter of John McCain, is. So Meghan McCain tweets out, Democrats are really going to nominate a 78-year-old white socialist who recently had a heart attack? Really? Better than Marianne Williamson, the Queen, who hopefully soon will make her endorsement of Bernie Sanders public, writes, better than a 73-year-old would-be autocrat who displays no morals, shows constant disrespect for traditions of our democracy, and seems to have no heart at all. To which Meghan McCain responds, "Okay, boomer." Okay, yeah, that phrase is dead. That phrase is officially dead now. We like that. Not that it wasn't dead before. Not that nobody was saying that like past Thanksgiving, but we are at a point right now where it's just about time where we need to get past the whole idea of a interesting he's a 78-year-old socialist, so because it's just really getting loose at this point. It's really take alert from Alex Perrine. He says it's sort of possible to accurately describe the way cable news is covering the campaign without sounding like this campaign, the Sanders, without sounding like the most hopeless Sanders diehard. One fan should be furious too. For the record, it was mostly the news that turned on her and boosted Klobbs and Pete. The only people who would pay attention to the news era are, of course, reliable Democratic voters. MSNBC is like exclusively talking about Bloomberg at this time, and we're not really following that much about MSNBC. I've mostly been looking at CNN right now. By the way, now 79% in. The lead is down to 1.7 for Sanders. So, yeah, that's pretty much right where the New York Times actually predicted it, so good for them. Yeah. And I did, though, during the music break, I walked in and the MSNBC anchor was referring to the demographics of the upcoming states as saison, and like it's like we got California coming up, and literally just pretty much what he was a black guy, but he was referring to people of color as seasoning, like we gotta spice it up a little bit, but it was very, very funny. Yeah, I think some of the biggest things tonight are the fact that obviously the final result, but other than the final result, I mean, I don't know how big a deal Klobuchar is going to do, but I think the biggest dynamic that people are going to really want to be talking about is Klobuchar Klobuchar, Warren, and how what direction Elizabeth Warren will go in. Because I think depending on what she does, it could have a big impact on the way the race plays out. Because it is a big deal to see where her supporters will go. And I think it's going to be interesting when that supporter base splits up, where it will go. Because we don't know where it's going to go, folks. We just do not. I do want to get to this article in the New Republic about how Bernie Sanders could win. I don't think we can get to this. But it is a really interesting look. We really need to take this look about how it's going to relate to how Elizabeth Warren, what tact is she going to take? Is she going to take that kind of, I don't know the right word, like the neoliberal, centrist, opportunistic, careerist path? Is that the path that she's going to take, or is she going to stick to, I think, what she in her heart of hearts believes, not with the Obama type of people who have kind of infested her campaign, but what she in her heart of hearts believes, which is the ideals of, I think much more closely Bernie Sanders. That is very, very interesting. And that will be, I think, probably one of the biggest stories of tonight. So, this is Nate Silver. Take alert from Nate Silver. I know Sanders' win is somewhat priced in, but I'm not sure why the story about him is about who finishes second and third instead of him winning, especially if it looks like a decently clear win. This is a few hours ago, 3 hours ago, before the results really started coming in. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can possibly expand or hold on to that lead, or how close that lead looks. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see if across the states, and I think the margin of the lead is going to be incredibly important, because the Democratic Party, I think we all know, in our heart of hearts, is going to stop at nothing to stop Bernie Sanders here. Really stop at absolutely nothing to stop Bernie Sanders. To some trickery at the convention. We don't know. We just don't know what they could do. A second ballot, because I don't think any of these candidates are going to have the wherewithal to survive throughout a deep primary season with all the support. Like, nobody has that. No one has that, the level of finances, the level of support, the level of organization, the staffing in this race, other than Bernie Sanders and Michael Bloomberg. Because Michael Bloomberg can run this primary 6 times over with the amount of money that he has. And that possible secret ballot, I think, or the possibility of Bernie Sanders not quite getting enough to get over the threshold, is very, very real. And if that happens, how the DNC and what course the DNC decides to take with Michael Bloomberg will mean everything. Another thing that could happen, though, is maybe there is some sort of moderate surge, some action on the moderate side to kind of coalesce around one person, gather all the support. One person clearly surges, whether it's Pete Buttigieg or not. But I think Bernie Sanders is going to have one, or something soon will happen where Bernie Sanders has one clear enemy, one clear target that he will have to face. It's kind of been jumping around. It's been Warren for a bit, Pete Buttigieg before that, Biden before that. It's been back and forth. Biden doesn't seem to be in the best positions right now. Probably going to win South Carolina. Nevada is kind of up in the air, depending on if Bernie gets a surge, which, I mean, the media is not getting any surge, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But from that point, if the one thing I think we know for sure is within the next 2 to 6 weeks, I think Bernie Sanders will get someone clear, a clear and present face on the moderate side. Because if he goes after that face, and once he interacts with that campaign, once he interacts with those beliefs, and I think it's better if it's Michael Bloomberg, but it's probably the best if it's Michael Bloomberg. Pete Buttigieg, you could probably do a pretty good job with. 2, Amy Klobuchar, that could be a whole nother thing. I don't think it's going to be Amy Klobuchar. Pete just seems like he's the most broad, dedicated support. But in the end, it kind of looks like, I mean, I think it looks more and more like Pete Buttigieg could be that moderate face, if not Michael Bloomberg. Yeah, it looks like Bernie Sanders, though. Buttigieg's campaign people are pretty happy about what they're doing. This was Bernie's backyard, and the gap is narrowing. Abby Phillip is reporting what's going on here. As returns come in, the Buttigieg campaign has their eyes on the suburbs. So far, Buttigieg has been performing well there, but also performing well in general throughout the state. The source says they're feeling generally good. The gap between Sanders and Buttigieg continues to narrow here, with now 82% reporting in New Hampshire. All right, let's take a look at it. Buttigieg is about to speak in New Hampshire. I don't know if I can take that at this point. So here is the John King on the CNN wall.
This is this close. They point to her. The debate Friday night changed this race. The Buttigieg people thought when they came out of Iowa that they had a shot. At this, look how close they are. Her surge may have blocked him from getting there.
Yeah, we heard from Elizabeth Warren. We heard from Amy Klobuchar and from Joe Biden. We're still waiting to hear from Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg. We're expecting to hear from Buttigieg fairly soon, Anderson.
Yeah, and obviously we'll bring that to our viewers live as well as Bernie Sanders. David Axelrod, the notion that
we'll be taking that live.
Rise after the debate took away from Buttigieg. Do you buy that?
Oh, 100%. You know, when I was walking the lines at her event, most of the people were trying to choose between the two of them. They had just come from a Buttigieg event. They were coming to check her out. They were intrigued by her debate speech. And it was very, very clear that he was going to lose some votes to her as she moved up. And if she moved up significantly, then she would make it difficult for him to pass Sanders. You know, he's doing pretty well given how well she's done. But she had a good night here.
Yeah, and she had a strategy, right? I mean, I think in the last two debates, she has squarely focused on Buttigieg on one of the vulnerabilities he has, which is his experience. So she had really tough exchanges with Pete Buttigieg in both of those debates, and I think you see that tonight from these results.
She also did a thing that women candidates are usually really loath to do, which was go after the double standard directly. The first time I saw her do it, I've been working with women candidates for most of my career. The first time I saw her do it, my heart kind of seized up because you're not supposed to say that things are different for me than you. But she stood right there and said, if Mayor Pete were a woman, a 37-year-old small-town mayor who was a woman would not be receiving the kind of national accolades that he is receiving. And it seems not to have backfired.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, this kind of stuff that this is Jess McIntosh on CNN. I mean, she's bringing up the point of like Elizabeth Warren being the bold outsider here, and it's like I get what you're saying. Like she's definitely taking a more of a tack to that, but I don't know what lane is she going to take. Is she going to push for that kind of the feminist representation route, the kind of a more identitarian route of politics, or the more class-based route of politics? I think that's kind of the word I'm looking for. Identitarian versus class. That's the decision that Elizabeth Warren is going to have to make here, I think, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So that's where she's going to have her campaign in the future, and that's going to, I think, do a lot to determine her relationship with the progressive wing and like what camp she falls into, because she's moved herself from firmly in the progressive camp to firmly nowhere at this point. She hasn't really, I think, been fully embraced by moderates, probably a little bit more than she's been pushed away by progressives. She's been embraced by moderates, but it's going to be interesting to see where this whole thing goes. All right, 26.3 now to 24.2 with 71% reporting over in the New York Times. Yeah, and right now things are kind of just hanging in there. And yeah, that's kind of where we are. We're holding out, and I think the funny thing is the amazing. So something nobody noticed today that was out there, and nobody decided to talk about it, which I found very interesting. This idea of Senator Elizabeth Warren releasing this internal memo in her campaign attacking Bernie Sanders to all their supporters. Sanders starts with a ceiling that's significantly lower than the support he had 4 years ago, the memo said. In Iowa, Sanders got no more than half of the number of people who caucused for him last time, despite spending $11.2 million in the state on TV ads, a third more than he spent in 2016. Obviously, that belies the fact the race is incredibly saturated. It's incredible. There's a lot more candidates in there.